we didn't want to shy away from showing the intimacy between two men, and that's what we don't get to see in any other films. Like, you know, we always have this toxic masculinity and man and this and that, but this is also true. So we didn't have any moment where we see them having sex. It was this tender moment. I have seen queer films here. It was always about upper class. I didn't see films which were showing the class that I belong to. People who maybe read about this film for the first time, that there's death, they might think it's a sad film. And this is what I didn't want to do. I wanted to make a film which is tender, warm and quiet.
So congratulations, Rohan, on selection of your film Sabar Bonda.
Thank you.
For the Sundance Film Festival, and what a great way to open this year's India slate internationally. This will be the first film to be to premiere
Marathi,
Marathi
feature.
Also Indian.
I mean, for this year, yeah. But
for this year,
first Marathi feature ever to be selected at Sundance, yeah.
Yeah. How does that feel?
I mean, you never expected that, you know, I never expected that this will happen, but of course that I wanted things to work out for this film, and I always wanted to take my films on that bigger international platform. So that was always the goal, because I mean, why not? I mean, there are these big platforms, and if we can go there with our work, it's a great thing. And so, but when I started writing this script, I didn't have any hopes, because the features that I wrote before this didn't work out. And when I was writing those features, I was like, oh, main ye karunga, wo karunga, I will do it this way, that way, and all that. But nothing happened. So when I was writing this, I was like, okay, you know, I feel nice when I'm writing this or thinking about this story. So I'll just do it for myself without any expectation. Let's just write it. So I started writing, but then the kind of feedbacks we started getting I was surprised, and people wanted to be part of it. And that's when me and my producer Neeraj Churi, we kept working towards that, and we started going to the labs. And then when we made the film, and when Sundance people saw the film, then they selected, we were like completely surprised, happy, everything was there. I mean, we didn't think that it will go this far. But it did, and then I started feeling, you know, that there was no expectation. So all you were doing is just to make a film that you want to make, and maybe that makes this film a different experience, I guess, because I was trying to create a portrait of time that I spent in my ancestral village. So maybe that's why it was my experience that I was recreating, and maybe that is why it feels different. That's what people are saying, and maybe that's why it stands out, and that's what even Sundance liked, I guess. And it was just that I was following my instinct.
And it's also semi-autobiographical. Tell us the process of scripting and probably revising the script.
It is autobiographical in a way that only the morning ritual and what Anand goes through, that was only autobiographical. The rest of the film, I mean, I would say 90% of the film is fiction. Only that the background is autobiographical. So the thing was, like, when I was actually grieving my father in that village, there were like so many people, they were coming to meet us, and just, you know, that happens when you lose someone. And everyone that were coming to that house, they had only one question for me: oh, you're 30 and still not married, you have to do it now, your mom is alone. And you know, I was facing that question throughout the day for 10 days. And I was like, what if I had a friend here who knew about me? I would have sneaked out and stayed away from this pressure for a while. So that stayed with me. And so writing this film was actually reimagining that whole period and making it tender for the central character. So that was the actual goal when I started writing. So everything that you see, that this character starts spending time with his childhood friend, that's completely fiction. So it was just using your imagination and then mixing it with some of the movements that actually happened. It was just that. So most, I mean, and also the process was that since the mourning period till 2020, so that happened, my dad passed away in 2016, so since then to 2020, thoughts were in my head about this film. So I, on and off, I used to think about it. So most of the things I had thought about in my head, and only in 2020 I just started writing. So for me it is that I don't do outline or the story or the character histories or any, I don't do anything. I quickly jump into writing the actual screenplay, because for me it's very important to know what actions are happening in that scene, what characters are saying, everything. So I start doing that, and then I start exploring in a way so that even I don't know where this will go, what will be the end of this story. But then you write one scene, then it gives you an idea for the next, and that's how it flows. So that was the process. So before that, for 4 years, it was in my head, and that's what happens usually. Even like there's this new idea that I have in my head. It's been there since 2018, but then maybe
Another idea.
Yeah. So, but I know there will be right time for that when I will start writing about it. So that's the actual process.
So this film starts as a film where the son is grieving the loss of his father, and then the queer narrative takes over. And what I liked about it is that you are not very apologetic about what you are going to say. It's very tender. It's also very quiet. So again, that is how the story flowed.
Yeah, in a way, as I said, I was reimagining that whole period and I wanted to make it tender. So that came by choice. But the silences and the quietness that you're talking about, that came because of that experience. Because when I was there, and the thing is, I actually, this quietness and silences I always use in my films, which I feel is part of everyone's life. Throughout the day, there are times when we are quiet, we experience the silence. So I think that should be part of storytelling as well. And so those are there. But specifically in this film, it's quiet because I wanted it to be quiet, because it's because of the setting of the film. And it's in the village where this character is going after a very long time. So how he's exploring this village all over again, which is changed. And because I wanted to create a portrait of that time, so the sounds that I heard when I was in the village. So most of the time, me and my mother, we were just sitting in the house, sometimes alone. So there was no one in the house. They all would go to the farm and work there, come back in the evening. So there were a lot of days where everything was quiet and silent. And I think sometimes, and even there's some sequences, even though people are talking, but they're still quiet. And I think when you have that kind of treatment, I feel the impact is much more bigger.
Yeah.
And that is why it was always, and these silences and the quietness was part of this film since the script stage. Because even then, people who read the script, even then they said this is such a quiet film. So that was always the part, and I wanted it to be, because see, also when people, I'm sure people who maybe read about this film for the first time, that there's death, they might think it's a sad film. And this is what I didn't want to do. I wanted to make a film which is tender, warm and quiet.
Yeah.
And
I quite like the fact that you did not use background music and allowed the natural sound to be there. And especially when there are those moments between the protagonist Anand and his friend Balya. So that tell us about how did you capture those rural sound or the sound of the open ground.
So I mean, one of the thing is that it's at its core, it's a romance drama between these two men, and romance drama doesn't have a background music. And I wanted that since the beginning, because then I knew that I have to write this script in a certain way so that we don't feel the need of background music. So it was from the writing stage only. And I mean, we shot the film, and after that, when we started the sound design. Before that, me and my sound designer Anirban Thakur, we went to the village for a few days, and we went to all those locations. We stayed at all those locations throughout the day, and we captured sound throughout the day. So different times had different, like afternoon sometimes was so quiet, evenings when everyone is back from their farms or wherever they were throughout the day. So village becomes a little noisy also, and because it's so silent in the village, you can hear the faraway sounds also very clearly. So I wanted that, because I sometimes I feel, you know, we have movies which have a village, which showcase village, but I never feel that I'm really seeing the village. I feel that it's a filmy way of showing a village. It's a filmy way of how it sounds. It doesn't sound like this. So that's what we did. So we actually recorded the sound of time and a different time during the day, and we used those. Because of that, you know, I think you can never write it in a way कि इधर ये sound सुनाई देगा film में when you are writing. But when we went there, the life was happening and we were just capturing that, and that's what I wanted in this film.
Did you shoot the film in your ancestral village or elsewhere?
Ancestral as in that's where my mom grew up, so it's my
Okay.
mama's village where I
Okay.
shot the film.
Mhm.
So I mean, I did go to that village when I was mourning my father, because my grandmother was very ill at that time. She couldn't even stand up, or so she couldn't come for the funeral and for the other things. But then my mom said we should go, and I was going to the village after almost more than a decade gap because of this death. So everyone, all the relatives wanted to meet me, and I was actually avoiding them. But then because of this, I had to go, and that's when everyone came to meet. But my grandmother couldn't meet, so we went there during that time, and that is why that one sequence is there where this guy goes to meet his grandfather. So I did go there, but yeah, I didn't. I was not there in that village throughout the morning. I was at one of my cousin uncle's village during the morning period.
And the cast, how did you work with the cast? Because I believe the two central characters, they have theatre experience, but I think the rest probably were non-actors.
No, they all are actors.
Oh, okay.
So initially I did want non-actors for the village part. But what happened, the kind of days that I was getting to shoot the entire film, I said, look, no, that's not going to happen, because with non-actors, you really need a lot of time.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, I told my casting director, Yuvandar, that let's do one thing, let's go and approach local theatre groups, so that we'll get the looks, language, and they will have some acting experience also. So we started doing that, and we auditioned people from these groups, and that's how we selected. And we selected only those who could respond to the directions, because, you know, when they auditioned, they were like there, and I wanted them here. But then, and we were doing this through WhatsApp, because we didn't have money to all the time go there, bring all the actors and audition them. So what we used to do, we used to go through the photographs, and they used to send something, and we used to see that. And then after that, then I used to give them direction. First, my casting director used to give them direction. After that, then those we really liked, then I used to have calls with them, video calls with them, and then I used to tell them, "Abhi ye aisa karke dekho, aisa," and they used to send me the audition videos again and again and again. That's how we actually selected them. And yeah, that was the process. It was a long process, because actually long process to find these two guys because this was very important. That I wanted for Balya, I wanted an actor from that region. And even for Anand, I specifically wanted an actor, maybe an actor who has origins there but grew up in city. And it happened. Like Bhushaan is from Nagar, but he grew up in Surat. So that's why his language, his body language is completely different than Suraj, because Suraj grew up in a village which is just 15 minutes away from my mama's village. So because of his language, and it's so I wanted these characters to feel like that we are actually seeing some real people. I didn't want that feeling of that some actors are playing this role. I didn't want that. So, but thankfully things really worked out, and both these actors, even the whole cast, I'm so lucky that I found these people because they really tried to give me what I wanted, and it was struggle for them as well. Except these two and the mother, the rest of the village cast, they kept telling me कि sir हम लोगों ने इतना simple acting आज तक कभी नहीं किया है. So that was but it was fun, you know, shaping their performances during the shoot was fun. But before that, for almost 3 months with these two actors, with the rest of the village cast, I was doing readings and telling them online how I'm imagining. So that was happening. But even in the village cast, there are 2-3 actors who have even worked in Nagraj Manjari's film and some other films. So they are that way, in a way, a bit known than the other village cast. And some of them they also work in TV. So the mother, she's been doing Marathi TV. and she's done small roles in few Marathi feature films, but I think this is her first major role in a Marathi feature.
She's quite understated
Yes.
in her acting, which
Yeah.
works for the film.
Yes.
If you can tell us a little bit about Bhushaan and Suraj's process, because they are at the center of the story.
Yeah.
How did they prepare for their role and their personal dynamics?
See, one of the big thing was that they studied acting together.
Where?
In Lalit Kala Kendra. And after that, so they had their group from that Lalit Kala Kendra, where all these friends would write plays, perform together. So all this their friends group has been in touch since then, and they've been working together. And Bhushan and Suraj specifically, they've been working with Prasanna sir. So and developing their own plays and performing them everywhere. So that's been happening. So this 6-year long relationship the friendship really helped us to use that as a basis to create the intimacy between these two characters. And my brief to them was just that we need to the performance needs to be simple. We don't have to show anyone that we are very good and look the kind of performance we are giving. We don't want any of that. We just need simplicity. Just imagine if you are in that place and someone asks you this question, how would you respond to that person? And the thing was that both these guys said, they felt that they don't think that this pressure that Anand and Balya go through in the film. They said even heterosexuals are going through the same pressure of marriage, and they're like, we are also we have stopped meeting our relatives, so we can really connect with these characters. And it's not only a queer problem of queer people. It's like now everyone feels the same, and even girls to feel even more. So that was one thing that they could connect with the story so easily. And a few years back, Suraj had lost his mother, and just before the film shoot, Bhushan lost one of his uncles. So they had gone through these rituals and all of these things. So that was another connect for them. And other thing was for them, which was helpful, that they said the film was written in a way that they could get the tone of the film. After that, it was just shaping and removing certain things or adding certain things during the performance. And most of the things happened during the readings, which we did online, because Bhushan was in Surat, Suraj was in Sangamner, I was in Mumbai. So we used to meet every evening on Google Meet and have our 2 hour long session. So most things we shaped there, and I was just lucky that they knew what I wanted because of those extensive discussions that we had. And even me and my partner, we both shared our lives. And I think one of the other good thing, that when they even came for the audition, they didn't try to portray this character in a way that to show that, look, I'm playing a gay character. No, so they were playing it as normal as they could, and this is what I wanted. I wanted to present this two character whose sexuality is part of this film, but they are also just like any other man or human being, just that. And because we want to normalize sexuality, we need to be just as normal as possible. So that was the only brief that I gave them.
This is a question I don't know if you are comfortable answering, so think about it. So how do you look at nudity? Because some filmmakers feel it is a part of their expression, it's a part of storytelling, art, but often in India those scenes are picked up and they face criticism. In All We Imagine as Light also those scenes are there, couple of the scenes, and they faced backlash for that. How do you look at it, and then the choice you made?
Before that, I would like to know from you, what did you feel when you saw that?
I felt it was very natural. Of course, it's like you watch it as the story progresses. It was a very natural progression of their relationship.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Exactly. That was the point, that we didn't want to shy away from showing the intimacy between two men, and that's what we don't get to see in any other films. Like, you know, we always have this toxic masculinity and man and this and that, but this is also true that two men can also be gentle with each other and can share something like that, the moment that we have in the film. And that's what we wanted. That's why we didn't have any moment where we see them having sex. It was this tender moment that we don't see, and that was important for me, and that's what I told them why we have that scene in the film. This is the reason. This is what I want to show, and they understand. That's what they were completely ready for it. And see, I mean, it was a need for this film and this story. Rest of my film don't have nudity, but this has because of one of my other short film also had nudity because of it was requirement for that story. So not all films have. So, but if it needs, it needs. That's what I feel, and then I feel I don't want to shy away from that, showing that moment.
Yeah. You are not a trained filmmaker. You chose this profession. How do you look at cinema? Is it like you look at it as an expression of yourself? You want to tell certain stories, and you think cinema is the best medium for that, or art? How do you look at it?
See, for me, I don't know if it's I do it because I want to express myself. I do it because I was interested in the gadgets in a way. I was interested in the film projector. That's how I started. I wanted to watch films in theater because I wanted to go into the projection room. And then when I saw Jurassic Park, I was in love with sound. So that's how it actually started. And the technical part actually interests me a lot, and to use them to tell a story. That's what I really like. But when I was in 10th standard and I had this one chapter in our Marathi book, Smashanatil Sona. So the way it was written, it was so cinematically written. I loved it, and that inspired me to write. So that's how my progression as a filmmaker, started. And then during when I was working as an interior designer, one of my friend told me, let's make a short film because there's a competition, and that's how I made my first film. So it more than it's not expression all the time. It's just that some idea interests you, and then you start seeing some images, maybe some movements in some images, some colors, or maybe some sound that attracts you, and how differently you can present this idea on screen. That actually attracts me more than anything else, because not all the films are like personal experience or personal expression. Sometimes this complete fiction. Like I really want to do a film with dinosaurs, so that's not a personal expression. It's just something that I love dinosaur. I love Jurassic Park, so I want to do something with dinosaur. I don't know how. So it's mostly just those things that just make you curious how to portray this through story.
In your interview on the Sundance website, I read once a line by you where you were saying the experiences of a gay person living in a slum and another person in a more urban setup are different. How would you explain that? Can you elaborate a bit?
Different in a way. The portrayal of those experiences have been, I mean, whenever I have seen queer films here, it was always about upper class. I didn't see films which were showing the class that I belong to. I mean, I grew up in a one-room house in a slum where my mom still stays, and whenever I was seeing those films, and I also strongly felt that they were just an impression of the Western queer films, and that is why I think most people also always felt, oh, this is all Western, this is not Indian. And that's when I felt, we have to tell our stories in our own way and use our real experiences to tell the story. And that is why I thought I should use my experience in a way, how my parents reacted when I came out to them, which was completely surprising that they just accepted me without any struggle. And I was like, why don't I see that? Because I know.
Both your parents?
Huh?
Both
Yeah.
your parents? Can you recount that moment?
So it was in 2013 where my dad asked me to share what I was feeling, because something had happened at that time and I was very, very sad, and my dad notices something is wrong. So he asked me, what has happened? Tell me. And he made me talk, because he said, until unless you share what is going inside you, I wouldn't know, and I won't know if I will be able to help you. So that's when I told him. But before that, I was very scared, because all this horrible stories I had heard about coming out, that those were in my mind and I was scared. But when I told him, he immediately said, the important thing that is that you know yourself, and that's what we wanted to know. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. Like, we don't want you to get married to anyone. Let's not even ruin that other person's life. It's okay. And good that you told us. So it was that simple, even with my mother. So I started feeling all these my rich friends who had parents with really, educated and all, they couldn't accept their kids and all. So that's when, and then my parents were like, my dad was semi-literate, my mom illiterate, they can accept me. So it was just the love and the wisdom that these people inherently had. That education didn't give them wisdom because they didn't have education. It was in them.
Yeah.
And the love that they had for their child, that helped them to accept. And I said, this we need to see, not that struggle, because I know that the struggle is real for some people, but we have been only seeing that side of the story, not this other side of the story. And this will help us to change the square narrative. And that is why I wanted to use stories from my background and the things that I have experienced in my real life.
I'm so happy that that positivity and that hope reflects in your film.
Thank you. Thank you.
All the
Thank you so
best,
much.
and have a great time at Sundance.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.